Hello, this is Tom, aka Jetio, here for Tabletop Tap Room and Star Frontiers Gamer, and we're doing another Fanzine Friday. We are late getting this one out on Friday, but that is because a verse thief came through here and misappropriated my camera, and I haven't been able to film. But it's okay. We are getting it done now. So we are doing Fanzine Friday number 37, and this is issue 12 of the Frontier Explorer. And this cover of Frontier Explorer, this art is called Enter the Rim. It was done by Wayne Peters. And that's because we have a little bit of a Zebulon's Guide theme going on with this issue. And this image, I asked Wayne if he could basically do a reprise of this image from the front page of the Alpha Dawn rules, of the basic rules in the Alpha Dawn rulebook, which were, it spotlights all of the core 4 species of the frontier setting. And I just wanted something similar for the rim races here. That the 3 rim species coming down, debarking a spaceship similar to this. And so I just thought this was really good. And note that the Ifschnit illustration is correct according to their racial description, not the funky dwarves in space illustration that was originally published in Zebulon's Guide. So I very much loved this particular piece of artwork that Wayne Peters did, and he did a great job. So this was a great cover, personal favorite of mine. The quote here is downloading information directly from the universe. We thought that was cool. And the full quote is actually, psychic power is the ability to download information directly from the universe, from Alada Ray. And there's a little bit of psionics and mentalism stuff in here. Thought Police. There's some Thought Police articles included in here. So that just seemed like such an appropriate quote for the cover of this particular issue. The first article is Zebulon's Guide to the Rim. Now, this came about, was the Star Frontiers community at starfrontiers.us forums. There was a lot of discussion in one of the projects. That project was the Zebulon's Guide Expanded, I think was the name of it. And so there was a lot of discussion, rehabbing, hashing out things that had just never been put into Zebulon's Guide. We got some information about the rim, but not a lot. And so we were expanding upon what we had, what seemed most logical. And so what you get here is a description of the Rim Coalition government we hashed out. We used a term like the board, like a board of directors, because we kind of felt like the compelling free merchants, the Ifschnits, would have had a major influence on the Rim themselves. So we kind of like that whole business board of directors sound. We didn't want, we wanted it to be different. We didn't want it to sound like a republic or a democracy or, or theocracy or, we wanted it to sound different. So we went with the board, and we described the board. We described the adjudicators, which are kind of their Supreme Court. And so you get a nice description here, a nice working description of the government in a few paragraphs. We get the racial agendas of the Rim government are described. We go into the basically how the Huma want to dominate the Rim through exploitation, how the Capellan free merchants want to monopolize, and through business, and how the Asakar are kind of the peacemakers, playing the Ifschnits against the Huma a little bit and trying to just for the good of everybody. So they're proving to be the premier diplomats in the frontier sector. And so we did that, nice little development here. And we worked on the flight. We had from from Zebulon's Guide, the name of the military organization in the rim was called the Flight. We don't have a lot of information on it. We worked on that. We hashed it out. One of the contributors on the forums, a guy named Will, who always did really great work that I liked, did this Falkirk Flight Works Spring Blade class patrol combatant. It's a hull size 4 workhorse. We didn't want their workhorse military vessel to be like the Assault Scout. So this is very much a patrol combatant, hull size 4, heavy hitting kind of a ship that he did up. And he always, was a little bit aggressive in how he designed ships, sometimes pushing the envelope. So they could sometimes be a little bit overpowered, but this one goes right up to that line of overpower without crossing it, I feel. And so I did like this design. It has some drawbacks because it uses the pod lasers that were introduced in the Dragon magazine. 4 of them, they're all facing forward. There is one laser battery, there's one torpedo, and then it's got assault rockets. So it goes right up to that being overpowered line, but doesn't quite cross it. So it's a cool ship design for them. We discussed rank structure, listed ranks, officer ranks, and again, heavy influence from the Capellan Free Merchants was imagined by all the contributors in the forums. So way back in Star Frontiersman number 17, I invented a new technology for standard weapon systems in the Nighthawks category. And that was the assault rocket and the rocket batteries. I had been watching a documentary on new weapon systems, and this one was to be used against battalions of tanks, and there would be an air burst, and all these little bomblets would kind of parachute, spiral down, and land on the tanks. And then they had the shape charge that would penetrate the armor. And so it was a way where one bomb could decimate a whole group of tanks on the battlefield. And I thought the very principles behind this technology could be used to shred the hull of a starship, particularly a fighter. And so I using this idea, I developed this HARM, and HARM stands for Hypervelocity Anti-Ship Reaction Drive Missile, which spells out HARM. So that was cool. The rules mechanic is that if you have HARM munitions in your assault rocket battery or your rocket battery, they have a damage table modifier for the advanced damage table that will shift damage more likely than not will shift the damage towards the hull hits. And with both of these weapon systems, they do enough damage on average, they should take out a fighter. So if you're shifting damage towards the hull hits, you're shredding the hull, you're taking out the fighter. So it's basically a weapon that was designed to be one hit, one kill against fighters. Well, I took this thing that I'd written for Star Frontiersman number 17, and I says, let's make it that the CFM, when they discovered the Huma, they encountered the Huma swarm, which was they like to bring a lot of fighter crafts, and that whole idea of that special attack that the Huma can do with their jumping, and they do a hit with their tail, the carousel attack that the Huma, group of Huma can do. I extrapolated that they do this Huma swarm with fighters, something similar. And so the Capellan Free Merchants were finding, that if they were having hostile negotiations with the Huma, it became a problem because they could swarm and take out a heavier ship. So they developed these HARM munitions to try to neutralize the Huma swarm tactics with just lots of fighters. And so that's where HARM munitions came from. So if your characters are using a starship and they encounter a wandering Capellan Free Merchant, he might be able to sell you some HARM munitions for your rocket battery. Now, next up, I found this article online about, it was in another magazine, about an intelligent alien invasion. It's written by Ariel Williams. I contacted her. I asked permission to reprint it, and she graciously gave us permission. And so this is really a cool examination of what a real intelligent alien species would do for invading the Earth. And she's a little bit critical of the classic aliens invade the Earth scenarios that we've seen in movies. And so she analyzes what it would be. And so this is a very thought-provoking article. And I just, this was cool. So you can read that as well. We have this Thought Police. It's a one-page article just discussing the tropes in sci-fi and including them. And we did a little artwork here. Don't even think it. Psi-Corp agents are active in this sector. Because we have a couple of Thought Police articles coming. So next up's another one-page examination of the cadres that were included in Star Frontiers that involve psionics, that involve the mentalism powers that were the optional rule in Zebulon's Guide. And so you had in Patriots, Terrorists, and Spies in Dragon 109, you had the clear thinkers, and then you had the free thinkers. The clear thinkers want to eliminate and control telepaths, and the free thinkers cadre is a response to that other cadre, and they're a nonprofit that supports and aids telepaths. And so this is just a discussion of how to use and incorporate these into your campaign. Next up, we have a Thought Police archetype article. Now, you're saying, I don't like psionics. And this is a Thought Police archetype written without it being all mentalism. And so you have these character concepts of a family of one inquisitor. This would be like the Spanish Inquisition meets the family of one Yazarians. And so this is an examination of an inquisitor that they would employ. Does not have to have psionics or mentalism powers. Corporate negotiator. Again, this is all about using the psychosocial skill and reading people. And then the Star Law interrogator character concept. And again, we follow through with developing skills and equipment, but there is a discussion of including the mentalism powers as optional. Because they were optional, the Zebulon's Guide, and some people just don't like adding space magic to their game. Some people do. So we wrote that. It's very, you might discount it thinking, I don't like them. I don't like the mentalism rules. I don't like the psionics. Cool. This is written. These character concepts are written without them. Those things are optional. You can have them or not, but you could definitely build these character archetypes from the Star Frontiers rules and have them function in the game as that character concept without including the space magic. So very good. And then Dr. Mento's psychic equipment. If you're going to have psychics and psionics and Thought Police, you might as well have some psychic equipment, right? So we included that in this issue as well. And then Sirens. This was written by the Klinksa, one of the frequent contributors over on the .us forums. And what she did was she was kind of taking the Sirens from Red Dwarf, but changed them quite a bit and adapted them for Star Frontiers. So this is not truly a straight up conversion of the Sirens from Red Dwarf, but kind of an adaptation and she kind of tinkered with them a little bit. So they're not a straight up conversion, but they are a sapient race now for Star Frontiers. And I mean, they've got some cool abilities here. You've got, here's the Siren psionic abilities. Telepathy, Siren projection ability, and then the one I kind of like the sound of, the mind wipe or brain suck. That just sounds scary, and I think there's a lot of potential for terrorizing the player characters with this particular ability and these creatures. So this was a very thorough write-up for this species, and we got some, I worked on some illustrations for it. And then an SP on Hakosar. The SP is Sathar Parasite. This is a one of those ecology of articles by Eric Windsor. Yep, Eric Windsor. And in the Zebulon's Guide timeline, one of the last entries in the timeline talked about this Sathar parasite attached to the back of somebody who was forced to try to assassinate the governor of Zebulon. And so I thought, well, that's cool, but we never got that Sathar parasite statted up. And Eric tackled that. So we got some fiction here. We got some, write-up on it. And so that's a nice, cool addition, the Sathar parasite with the little, attached to the guy's nervous system, the little probes going into the base of his skull. It was a very nice thing written into the timeline, but we just never got it for play use in the game. It was never detailed. Eric's done us that service. Then next up, episode 5 of Titan Rising. And this is the comic that AZ Gamer was producing. Then we get the new engine requirements for Nighthawk's ship construction. C.R. Klein wrote this. This is an alternate rule system for the Nighthawk's engines. And you can read up on that. It's an alternative to what's there, and kind of an adaptation and cleaning up of those rules. So if you think they're a little bit wiggly, you might like this a little bit better. Now, Condition Critical. This was about critical die rolls in Star Frontiers. And I had a player in a game had rolled like an 0-2 in Crash on Volturnus, shooting at one of the pirates in the jet copter. When you're out in the desert, one of those random encounters, the pirates come by and they kind of buzz you a little bit, and then they put a warning note. They attach a little warning note to a rock and throw it out, so you get the note, and it's kind of a little bit of a threat. Well, one of the players got an 0-2 shooting the guy as he's leaning out to throw that note. And hit it. So I just rolled. You hit him in the face. He goes flying back. He drops his weapon. So I gave them the guy's weapon because it fell, and so they got that weapon and its ammo, because you're always scrounging for weapons in the early part of that module. And so everybody was excited at the table. And you rolled an 0-2. I just gave him a little extra on that, and it got me thinking about critical hits. So you get some tables here for ranged weapon, critical success, and critical failures that you can roll on these. And, various bad things can happen. I like the critical grenade failure. User failure. Forgot to activate or pull pin. Opponent may pick up grenade and use it normally. There you go. You failed. That's not quite so bad. You have a malfunctioning grenade. It's faulty, fails to work. Short throw. It's a short throw. You roll the bounce table and apply the grenade effect against the thrower if it bounces back towards them. And then extremely short throw. Grenade lands at your feet. Fun times, right? So various things here. Even applying the critical, some unique critical successes and failures to technician skill, robotic skill. Some of my favorites here are failures for medical skill. Did you just diagnose a gunshot as indigestion? and this other one, they should call you Dr. Death. The attempt to heal has actually harmed the patient. And then he's dead, Jim. And this is the medic has killed the patient with the freeze field. So this result would only happen if you're trying to use the freeze field and you roll a critical failure. But I loved calling it "He's Dead, Jim." So these are fun. These are something you might apply. Just great thing to use there. Then at the same now, Tom Stevens had found this article in German. It was an article for Star Frontiers. He found it in German, and he began working on translating it. First using Google Translate, then cleaning it up because Google Translate's just abysmal. And apparently there are 2 other articles out there in German, and he called. He like, look, if you have access to these articles, please get in touch with me. We'd like to translate them. We'd like to make them available. So if you're seeing this, you might want to check this out in the magazine here. See if you have access to these articles, because these would be cool to make available. Even though the Frontier Explorer is no longer printing, we'll find some way to get them translated and cleaned up and make them available for English readers as well. I think that'd be cool. I would love to read them, if nothing else. So this is an alternate critical hits Star Frontiers article, but it's more about having critical hits applied against a specific limb. Like if a critical hit and it goes against the right arm, you lose the use of that arm. Maybe you need to replace it with an artificial limb, that kind of thing. So this is a very interesting article, and it then suggests new equipment here, like an artificial arm, artificial leg, steel corset. This is for critical hit that impacts your lungs. A silver skull plate, sounds like fun, and then a robotic eye. So if you may not use this, but you may want to have access to this piece of equipment of a robotic eye. Here's some suggested stats for it. And then there's a proposal for a new military skill called target shooting. So excellent. Now, the frog that kissed a prince, and frog is spelled Frogg. And let me tell you, writing this article, spell check and Grammarly had fits over me spelling frog that way. That is how it's spelled in Sundown on Star Mist. Now, spoiler alert, if you're playing in Sundown on Star Mist, you might want to jump ahead a little bit here, because I'm about to spoil something. But towards the back of Sundown on Star Mist, there are 10 organisms. Some are plants, some are animals, that are normal, harmless frontier creatures that the Sathar have collected and experimented on and created hazardous organisms. Now, they look exactly like the harmless one, but they have some sort of a detrimental effect. And so they're basically a biological trap. They're like a trap that springs when you come near it. And the frog was one of them. Now, what I did was I thought, that Clarion, 90% rain. Rains on Clarion 90% of the time. It's got 90% rain coverage. So Clarion's soggy. It's known for being soggy, and I thought maybe the frog came from Clarion, the Frogg. And one Sathar plot would be to reintroduce this harmful organism as an invasive species back to Clarion. And that's what this adventure is here. This is a harmful invasive species adventure, and a prince of the royal family of Clarion was going on a adventure tour, and he is attacked by this species. So that's what triggers this investigation. So there's a whole adventure here. There's stats for the frogs. You didn't really get good stats, and I don't feel like you got. I kind of worked and tweaked the stats, and then I created a special variant based off the original one from Star Mist. This one's a little bit different. This is the invasive species being used, much more dangerous, much more harmful. And so this is a Sathar plot kind of a thing, and there's a whole investigation here, and it can lead to a Nighthawks scenario, particularly if the player characters happen to be Royal Marines who have been detailed to investigate. So, but again, the player characters don't have to be Royal Marines. They could be a variety. You could have a Star Law agent being detailed to this investigation. You could have a medical services organization doctor being, or scientist being detailed to this investigation. They could be a Royal Guard. They could be a Royal Mounted Constabulary, which something I invented, but they kind of function as a planet-wide police force and wilderness rangers. So you can have a variety of characters in on this, or just even a pickup team that's been hired to do the investigation. I do want to apologize for the map. I'm looking at this map now, and I don't like it. I don't know what I was using to create this map, but it's just not a great looking map. So it's, but basically what you have there, the brown is the plateau that's described. You've got the marsh, swamp, rainforest, and then all these lakes, and then there's these little lines through it are the channels, the open channels you can take a boat through in the rainforest. Now, Gandalf was a level 6 technician androlicite. This was inspired by an article in an early Dragon magazine that said Gandalf was a level 6 magic user. Now, basically, because the movies weren't around back then, it was just the books, and we'd all read them, right? So that article was written judging Gandalf, what's observed in Gandalf in the books by classic D&D, what's the minimal, he could be, or the most he could be, and still do all of these effects. Now, I happen to think Gandalf was the type who used the least amount of power possible. If he could get it done with just a little tack hammer instead of a sledgehammer, he would use the tack hammer. He never goes straight to, fireball. He always uses the minimal amount of magic he can. So I think it's possible Gandalf could be a much higher level magic user. And so I disagreed with the article, but it got me thinking, how would I portray Gandalf in Star Frontiers? And to do all of his observed effects, more or less, I came up with a level 6 technician who is also a Drolicite. And so this is just a little write-up as an NPC for this character. His name is Dolof, and because Gandalf rode a white horse called Shadowfax, Dolof has a hover cycle called Shadowfast. So that is just a little 2-page. That was fun write-up. And just inspired by an early Dragon magazine. And we have a Universe RPG review here. And the Universe RPG actually is a step cousin to Star Frontiers. And I was interested in doing this review because I was interested in tracking down the map. The map for this is a 30 light year wide map of all of the star systems around Earth, presented in a 3D format on obviously a poster, 2D in a 2D production, and it's considered one of the best representations of this, to present 3D star systems in 3D on a 2D map. And so it's kind of considered a thing of beauty. It's hard to find if you can get it. So that's why I ran it down. One, because it's technically a step cousin of Star Frontiers, and because the map was just considered so beautiful. So it was a must-have for me. And so this is just a write-up on the Universe RPG. It was never popular. It never really went anywhere. And the last time it had an official mention was in an Ares section in Dragon, and it made it seem like you were going to see more of the Universe RPG, but it was just discontinued and moved right along. And then lastly, we have Grimm's Guide, lesson number 12, Cabin Fever, and the Grimm's Guide comic on the back. So this is Frontier Explorer number 12, one of my favorite issues. I really loved working on all the material in this. And I just love this cover that Wayne Peters did. I just love this. One of my favorite covers. And so thanks for watching. That is our Fanzine Friday. Sorry it's so late, guys. It was events beyond my control. But I will endeavor to have the filming done for Fanzine Friday next week, done ahead and on time and ready to go in the can. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And if you have not subscribed, please do consider hitting the subscribe, like, and bell icon to help me build the channel. Until then, I will see you in the frontier.